I just want to take the opportunity to welcome all of you. And yes, like Michelle said, you're logged on to the Thriving Through Ongoing Professional Development session. And so I do want to just quickly see who I'm sharing information with. So if you could please put in the chat feed, or if you want to even turn on your cameras, this will be kind of an interactive session. So, and just tell me who you are and where and what you will be teaching. Well, welcome, Bethany. I actually grew up in the last portion of my high school years anyway in Watertown, which is not too far from Waverly, South Shore. So Donna, I'm not super familiar with Cedar Grove Hutterite Colony. Where is that located? Okay, close to Platte, so about 2 hours away. That's not too far either. So I do want to tell you a little bit about myself and continue to put where you're teaching and what you are going, or where you are at and what you're going to be teaching, because I love to see just the diversity that we have in South Dakota. But I want to tell you why I am so passionate about professional development. So my background, I was a bedside nurse for 14 years prior to going to full-time faculty 2 years ago. And why the switch? Well, I always wanted to be a educator, a faculty member, but my mom and dad grew up teaching my entire lives, and so I wanted to follow in their footsteps, but I did not think that I could do 20 kids in one classroom. I just thought that that would be way too much for me. I mean, I have 2 kiddos, and that is plenty. And so I admire all of you who do more, who do like 20 kids to a classroom. And now with the current situation, who knows exactly what it will kind of look like this fall. But I appreciate you, and I want you to know that I'm just so thankful that there are K-12 educators out there. I deal mostly with adults, and that's my how would you say, expertise. And so during the time that I was a bedside nurse, though, I read over 40 books that ranged anywhere from what you could consider like self-help to professional growth to leadership, or how to deal with personalities. And that was a huge one for me, is because I knew that I would have to identify with many different people being a nurse and an educator. And so I knew there was a broad range of situations that were going to come my way that I would have to deal with. So by immersing myself into that professional growth, I was able to develop or kind of honed in on some tools that were very successful. And so I still love reading books. But now my textbooks for my master's program, which I'm sure most of you have been through already, are kind of taking over my time. So my goal is to try to get back to that once that is done here in December, and I'm super excited for it. I have a newfound respect for online learning. So my trajectory in my career, I guess, started out a little bit different. I went to college for pre-med, and halfway through my undergrad for pre-med, I just decided I was shadowing an OBGYN doctor at the time, and I just did not want that call schedule. And so I then went into nursing because I knew there was an ample amount of opportunities to challenge myself and to constantly grow, because there's so many different aspects of nursing. And so I, at the time, only gained my associate's degree. And so back in 2014, I went back for my bachelor's, and that was strictly online. And it provided me so much empathy for my current students, but also for all of you who, when we went to virtual learning this spring, how it's a whole different world. And it is definitely one that takes a lot of dedication and constant, how would you say, assessment. So I do have, just to kind of start us off, I know we're right here before lunchtime and kind of right before the end of this conference. So I want to exercise your brains a little bit. I put together a little Kahoot. It's only 5 questions, but it's one of the tools that I have used for engaging members in my professional development sessions. So I want to share my screen here with you. If you give me just a moment, we're going to click into that. And welcome Kim and welcome Christy. Can all of you see the game pin? All right. We're going to start it out here. So, true or false, professional development is only a conference, seminar, or workshop? Yes, you're correct. All right. Good job, Michelle. You have fast fingers. All right. How many credits do you need in order to renew your South Dakota professional teaching certificate? All right, yes, 6. And it's kind of a combination of many different credits and an aspect of things, but there you go. Michelle has fast fingers again. What does SDEA stand for? SDE stands for South Dakota Education Association. Oh, Donna moved up, Michelle. Which evaluation focuses on determining progress being made towards achievement of outcomes? Formative, yes. Christy, good job. And true or false, mentoring enhances reciprocal learning and fosters reflective practice. Yes. All right. So let's see who was on our podium. Good job, Christy. All right. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little fun activity. And those particular questions, we are, how would you say, that particular method of using kind of an interactive game to get your audience members, in a sense, involved is it's kind of a nice, it draws you in, and it kind of correlates your information that you're going to be speaking about. So the pandemic has definitely changed a lot of what we have done as educators, and our viewpoints have changed quite dramatically since all of this has started. What we thought would work prior to the pandemic is not necessarily what's working now. And so we're going to talk through a couple tips and suggestions that I've utilized during this time to help make our success in the virtual professional world. So this June, which is in the summer, and our teachers and our staff are not on necessarily contract or working, we held a virtual lunch and learn. And what we did during that time was we talked about burnout and stress and how to manage those in your career. We had 47 attendees, which was a very good mix of staff and faculty, which for us was a win, especially since it was the first virtual session that we had held since the whole kind of pandemic occurred. The comments that we heard after that session was it was very well needed, and that what wonderful tools that we made accessible to our staff and our faculty during that time was very encouraging. One of the biggest takeaways, though, that we had from that particular virtual lunch and learn is that we needed to select topics and subjects that our staff and faculty were pertinent to our staff and faculty, because as staff and faculty, when we grow ourselves, our students benefit. And so just like we do for our students, we're constantly evaluating and assessing our progress towards outcomes. That's why we had that question in the Kahoot game regarding formative and summative assessments. Our formative assessments are constantly occurring even in not our lecture portion of things. They're occurring in our committees and in our personal lives. And so what we do in our professional lives and our personal lives will enhance what we do in our personal or professional lives. And so another aspect of professional development that we've seen success with is performing together as teams. So a team is considered more than one person, and in a team could be a mentor group, right? So you have to have a mentor, you have to be in a group with more than just you. And so teams have shown us that, or research actually has shown that teachers who work together maintain motivation, they have a better understanding of team processes, and they have also a better attitude regarding their entire experience. It is shown too that investing in a professional development for faculty is one of the best top 10 practices for developmental education programs. Balin and Zach, who are researchers, state that gains in student retention occur, pass rates on exit examinations, course completion rates, and pass rates in courses are all linked to training our personnel and ensuring that we have effective professional development for our staff. And so we want to make sure that we are adult learners. So we want to employ strategies that are, problem centered that we can customize, and also have some self-directed learning. Kind of like I talked about before, how I read those books in my professional bedside career, and how now if you find any type of information that kind of helps assist you in your professional career to have better outcomes for your coworkers and for your students, it's always a benefit to grow our minds. And as you know, or maybe you don't learn the same way, but anytime that I learn something and then put it into practice right away, I feel I'm more effective and I can teach my students more effectively, as long as it's aligns with our accreditation standards and our outcomes, our student learning outcomes. So there's many different ways that you can seek professional development. You are in one of them. You are in a conference. That's definitely a way you can seek professional development, but there's other things that you can do. There's just like what we saw in the Kahoot question regarding our seminars and workshops, but if you're having a conversation with your colleagues about best practices, if you're doing independent reading on professional growth, besides our textbooks, right? Because we all should know our information that we're teaching our students. But when I first started teaching, one of the biggest things that helped me was observing my colleagues, because we can definitely learn from our peers too. Teams are vital to our success. And so especially this year with the uncertainty kind of transpiring the start of the school year, it's important to work together for our curriculum innovation and then how to collectively improve our online teaching skills so that we can. Research has shown that working in teams creates commitment, and it also reduces resistance to organizational change, which can be huge at this point in time. New teachers, we have many different struggles that we occur, and it's not just new teachers. Veteran teachers also encounter many situations that they didn't necessarily go through their first couple years in teaching. So to work together as teams, you can help or to have a mentor in your life for teaching helps you with how do you manage your class, how can you improve your instruction. It can also help you with adhering to the state standards and parent relations. That's always a huge one for me. Coming from educating my patients at the bedside to educating students, and then having to deal with, parents and family on the other side, there's always situations where I'm looking for further clarification, or just how have you encountered this in the past, and how did you deal with it? So with the extra support, we're able to handle more of those daily challenges that come our way. And so many states, South Dakota is included in that, require professional development requirements to achieve your recertification for your teaching certificate. So I know I looked up K-12's requirements very briefly, but for post-secondary, we have 150 hours that we have to complete over a 5-year time frame. But it's just kind of it is important to our growth as individuals, but it's also important so that we can renew our teaching certificates. So college provides us our basics, and just like I tell my students, when they leave us, we provide that basic knowledge for them. But then the first couple years that they get out into the workforce, they are going to learn a huge amount. And that's the same thing for teachers. Every year with professional development, I have grown and learned so much more than I did going through my college courses. And so it's an important aspect to incorporate into our daily lives. Matthew Lynch in 2019 explained that teachers are more prone to using podcasts. And I just want to take a moment to have you just jot in the chat feed again. If you have listened to podcasts, or if you have a favorite podcast, I just want to hear that from you. Christina, I've also listened to John Maxwell podcasts. They are very pertinent to many leadership qualities. If you haven't listened to podcasts, yes, Donna, that's a good blog too. If you haven't listened to podcasts, I'm going to put a little plug in there for them. And the reason being is because they are like 15, 20 minutes long typically. When Matthew Lynch kind of talked about it in 2019, he talked about podcasts being important for educators because we live very busy lives. Everybody lives very busy lives, but podcasts give us the opportunity to listen while we're doing our commute, to grab that nugget in that short amount of time or long amount of time, depending on how far you commute. But we can also listen to podcasts while we're grocery shopping, while we're putting laundry away, while we're drinking our coffee in the morning to get ourselves ready for the day. It's where you can grab that little snippet of information that you can incorporate into your practice, but also that little nugget can transform your practice too. So the format allows for many different perspectives on one topic. So if you're learning to gain knowledge regarding one aspect of teaching or one aspect of learning to improve your students' outcomes, then you can research that, but then you can have access to multiple different perspectives in one place. And it gives you a global perspective because there's many different podcasts out there that have leaders and innovators and teachers from all over the world. so they can give you kind of a different diverse perspective on that particular topic that you want to gain more information on too. And so especially with diversity and inclusion being a hot topic right now, it is important to stay up to date on the evidence-based teaching, and also to incorporate your, how would you say, incorporate your knowledge and include diverse situations within your practice. So as far as other suggestions or topics that I have, I put together a resource page of different websites that I utilize for professional development, and I will include that into the folder that we have for this particular session. And so then that way you can gain access to, just by clicking those links, you can gain a lot of access. But I also have to put a plug in for the SDEA, the South Dakota Education Association, because they have also an ample amount of opportunities for professional development for teachers in this state. And so it is a great website and resource to utilize to be kind of immersed in maybe the common issues that people are experiencing and how they have dealt with it. So it's almost like a virtual online mentorship in a sense. Which is also very helpful, especially when at any time we can go from face-to-face to online learning. So for those of you who are in here, are you starting your fall school year face-to-face, or did your schools choose to go online? Yeah. Or how we are saying right now, we're saying mask to mask. Because we're starting this fall, Southeast Tech College is requiring everybody to wear masks. So we've been promoting it to our students as mask to mask instead of face to face. And I'm so thankful we're given this opportunity to go back face to face. I know that there's a lot of, how would you say, feelings and emotions that are kind of wrapped up into this school year. But I keep hoping for the best, and I know that my two kiddos especially are just begging to go back. So I hope that doesn't mean I did an awful job when I was homeschooling them for this spring, but it was definitely a challenge working full-time and homeschooling, as I'm sure a lot of you have had experienced also in their classrooms. But I know this session is supposed to go till 10:50, but my counterpart, my mentor actually, who was supposed to be presenting with me, she got called out to a meeting with another school. So it is a little bit of a shorter session, which gives you a little bit of a break before your end of your conference.